Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, Last Days of Europe, with me, Alpha Omega, and Empire of Japan. So in the last episode, we have decided firmly that we are going to go with Kaya's technocrats. So we're gonna work on that today, and Ikeda, unfortunately, is out. I'm hoping that nothing bad happens to him, because he probably didn't cause the issues that we have right now, but his entire party can go jump off a bridge for all I care. Ikeda knocked out. It's the end of the line for Ikeda Masanosuke. The ambitious politician had emerged from the collapse of the Ino government to try to stop the destruction of the conservative faction. He had made a valiant effort of it, and had nearly succeeded in resecuring the prime minister's seat for his faction. Now the Yokusankai conservatives find themselves under constant attacks by the reformists and technocrats. The schemes of Kaya and Takagi have further hollowed out the conservatives' power base. None of the independent members of the Diet are willing to help Ikeda stabilize his position, and so the politician has thrown the towel. It remains to be seen how the Conservatives will react to the loss of their champion. So I wonder... I mean, he's still there, but we'll see what's gonna happen. And the German Civil War, something interesting is happening. In the wake of Adolf Hitler's death, the Reich has erupted into chaos. Despite the Führer appointing a legal successor, powerful factions within the Reich have taken up arms against one another with the interest of leading the nation in their vision. The nation is torn, with entire garrisons ignoring orders from Germania and flocking to the successors of their choice. Though the gravity of the situation is not yet known, it is estimated that the Reich is either facing or already experiencing total collapse of central authority. Though not much is known about the fate of the Reich's eastern administrations, the sudden cessation of contact between Germania and her possessions has created speculation on if those regions too will find their fate. What is known for sure, however, is that the collapse of the Europe's Titan has thrown the continent asunder. It is thus necessary that the individual should finally come to realize that his own ego is of no importance in comparison with the existence of the nation. So it begins. So Bormann's Germany is over here, and I believe that Bormann is the one that was appointed. Here is Speer's Germany, the one we played, and who actually was our chosen one, the Daughters of Germania. Well, we led the guy to victory. And then there's Göring's Germany. And here in Ostpreußen we have Reinhard Heydrich. And Germania is independent, and also Fürkreis the 19, Verkreis 19, being led by Wutzgraf Schwerin von Krosk, and I think also this area. Yep, that's part of the Großgermanisches Reich, and that one will actually be led by an admiral. I'm not sure. I forgot which one, but he's gonna be reading that. And UK, selling equipment to Großgermanisches Reich. Someone mentioned that Germany has United Kingdom in its sphere, but it doesn't. I really don't know why, but that changed quite dramatically from our playthrough as Germany. Oh god. Our economy is just shrinking from under us. Everything that we build is now going to hell. Germany is not even on the list anymore. It's just us and the United States. I wonder if it's gonna pull us in somehow. 42 days for the AntiRebel Campaign. The vultures descend. The Diet was in an uncontrollable rabble. Members from across the floor heckled and groaned at their opposition's proposals as papers flew across the air in the great rumble and roars of arguing members. The final battle between Kaya and Takagi's faction was commencing in the House of Representatives. Their demagogues and ideologues spat and taunted insults at each other to vanquish their support and prop up their own candidate. The speaker could not control the chaos as dozens of members at a time hissed and harassed their rivals until the very last minute before the vote was called. The silence that fell over the chamber was forced and quivering, barely keeping a lid on the feuding rows of the split parliament. Slowly and carefully, each vote was counted. Both candidates prayed that their support from the military, deputies, and ideologues and the blessings from Kido Koichi would swing the majority into their favor. As each vote was counted, the intense boiling of the air had created a tense anticipation. Takagi desperately repressed all exhilaration underneath a cool yet pressed gaze, and Kaya leaned against an armrest, scratching his chin in suspense. As time went on, the grumbles dancing between the back rows of the chamber had quietened, and silence fell over the members of both factions. Like a predator stalking prey, men stuffed in the rows of the Diet were still and silent, ready to pounce the second weakness showed its feeble face in the coming moments. That the results... Oh god. So many things happening. Ready to pounce, the second weakness showed its feeble face in the coming moments that the results were announced. Once more the power brokers decide the occupant of the throne. So I wonder what's gonna happen next, because we still need to probably look into that. So Ordenstadt Burgund declared war on the French state. So they are attacking France while Great German Reich is in chaos. Well, if I remember correctly, they have vast numeric superiority on them. Okay, we don't know. We really don't know, but last I remember they won without any issues. 2nd of November... 99.6 GDP still fall. We still have a surplus. That's the only thing that's actually making me happy. Prime Minister Imre fired. Horthy announces reform. Okay, Hungary is in uproar. In a shocking upheaval to Budapest political establishment, perennial Hungarian Prime Minister Bela Imre has been fired from their position after the electoral liberalization bill was passed against his wishes. The announcement was made today by István Horthy, a man considered to be a pariah in Hungarian politics. Thrust into the spotlight after the death of his beloved father and co-regent in 1957, Horthy was until today widely considered to be a weak puppet of his prime minister. Furthermore, Horthy has announced a reform program for Hungary, a proclamation that has seen his name cheered on by the people who once despised him. This has coincided with his appointment of Lajos Kristos Fischer as Prime Minister, a retired yet well-represented general. International observers see these changes as sidelining dominant far-right elements and predict significant changes in future elections. A decaying country has been given a new breath of life. And... okay, the Franco-Burgundian War. As the situation within Europe rapidly develops, as the Germans fear free falls into total collapse, many have wondered what, if any, move the secretive Black State would make. With recently leaked footage from Germany showing SS convoys moving into Burgundy, a border that has become one of the most militarized on Earth overnight, many observers declared this to be evidence that Heinrich Himmler has withdrawn support of Reinhard Heydrich's claim to the Führership. Yet the true reasoning has now revealed itself. While the international community is still scrambling to make sense of the chaos, Burgundian tanks are now rolling into Paris, and the French military, severely weakened by German sanctions, have either been forced into full retreat or had entire divisions destroyed where they dare to make their stand. A shadow looms over France. Chaos in Reichskommissariat Ostland. So that one is... this is most... Okay, it's this one. Okay. Reichskommissariat Ostland. Generalbezirk Ostland. Reichskommissariat Moscovian. Though much of the German sphere has always been shrouded by the German government, Ostland never had this issue, with multiple international news stations in Riga always ready to be paraded around by German officials to show off the high quality of life, strength of the workforce, and happiness of the people in their model colony. Whilst the administration in Ostland have now attempted to close down the various sections of Riga dedicated to the press, guerrilla reporters have still managed to disperse to film the developments on the ground to the world outside. The footage is shocking, showing brutal house-to-house fighting between various members of the garrison, militia groups, citizenry and partisans. The international community is still deciding what to make of this footage and who, if anyone, they are supposed to root for. A Reich divided. The entire world has descended into absolute chaos. Foreign policy. We're still about 150 political power away from being able to do anything. In that time we are gonna get what? 30, 40 something, 42 political powers will be at minus 100. We can take the dismantling of Manila forts, which will take another 30 days, but will still be at really huge negative. But the reconstruction deadline is about 156 days away, so we can still manage to do a couple of things afterwards. We'll have to be really selective to make sure that it works, and if this fails, we are kinda screwed anyway. So the Voice of Crusaders. From even the Meiji era, the friction between branches of the Imperial Armed Forces has been the source of bitter conflict in Japanese politics and diplomacy. However, even amidst the cruel disputes of inter-service rivalry, rare exceptions arise where the two forces put down their arms and join forces for the sake of Kokutai, or rather to preserve their current power and position in Japan against any optimistic reformists. The recent political scandals, disruptions and unrest in the nation has provoked the General Staff to take a stance. Indeed, officers from the IJA and IJN have grouped together for what they claim is a defense of sovereignty. Their final decision was tensely skirmished over in days of morose debate. Takagi's naval background had loyal ties with many of the admirals, whilst Kaya's pledges to develop and centralize the military industry gripped the attention of supportive generals. Aware of their influence in the Diet, a spokesperson for the General Staff has issued a conclusive statement endorsing the premiership of Kaya. Firm. And Heinz Speidel assumes control of Germania. With Germany having collapsed into civil war across the country, even at this early state of the conflict, the toil both in terms of lives and destruction is rapidly becoming apparent. Yet it appears as though not everyone within the Reich is interested in taking part in this destructive war. In light of the collapse of the Emergency Council, Field Marshal Hans Speidel, best known for foiling the attempt as a coup during the West Russian War, today marched into Germania. On the steps of the Reichstag, with respected war hero Field Marshal Erwin Rommel beside him, Speidel declared his neutrality in the conflict. The city of Germania will now be garrisoned by the forces of Speidel, Rommel, and other generals loyal to their cause of neutrality, with a stern warning of an unshakable resistance should any side in the civil war attempt to attack the city. More trouble in Germany. If I remember correctly, he will be executed once one side wins. Which I don't kind of understand, because it seems that he did the right thing. Incident F-17238. In the hot and sweaty mines that have fallen into disrepair under the IJA administration in northern Choson, dirty-faced laborers dug deep into the earth in search of magnesite ores to be used in manufacturing on the home islands, or to be packaged and shipped across the sphere for other domestic consumption. The clinks and clanks of pickaxes echoed through the mazes of mineshafts and out of the quarry in the industrial zone on the northeastern mountains. A group of miners hundreds of meters below the Earth's surface had discovered a vein of gold ore whilst dragging their heavy feet down the claustrophobic mineshaft tunnels, and were thrilled with joy at the thought of their riches. Being so far deep underground, any officer or administrator watching over them would be distracted for long enough so that they could smuggle some of the pure gold down their deep pockets or socks. They clambered over each other, shoving one another to reach the shining gold mineral, until one of the poor miners was thrown against a particularly weak metal beam. A great creaking snap sounded down the mine shaft, and in mere seconds the tunnel began to collapse in on itself, crushing the laborers below the Earth's surface. A mighty tumble shook the earth that drowned out the screams of those trapped underneath, but the administrators above were left largely confused about the sources of the FUD from their possible watching over the quarry. Buried treasure. It was 46 manpower and 10 political power. You remember how I was saying that the game is playing against us? The approval of Wildcards. Řád Timošovy Rzeczpospolitej Polskiej declared war on Dutch general government. Okay. So the Polish have rose up against the general government. Okay, well. Expansion into Africa. West Africa has had it rough since the end of the Second World War. Luftwaffe units based out of the Reich's holdings in Central Africa have, for the past 2 decades, bombed anything inland into dust. With the death of Hitler and the collapse of the Reich, those Luftwaffe units haven't moved in a long time. Already several small nations on the coast have begun expanding their borders inland, free from the fear of constant German bombing. Whether bombing resumes or not, only time will tell. West Africa. So you guys have like the bombing rates? Oh yeah, obliterated infrastructure. Okay. Construction speed, production efficiency. Jesus Christ. For some reason Cameroon though doesn't have that one. Militia based. Azawad, Mali, Rosok. The approval of Wildcards. With the final vote on the horizon, Takagi and Kaya have chased Wildcards deputies in the Diet to sway the majority opinion in their favor. In speeches in the House of Representatives, in extra-legal channels, and fancy dinner parties, even in backstreet bribes and coercion, the race to count the greater share of votes in the Diet growing more tense by the day. They are picked off as particularly weak ideologues within the Taisei Yokusankai and targeted as weak and impressionable, potential footmen in the sea of votes expected by each candidate. Both Takagi and Kaya's entourage of loyal courtiers had sunk their teeth into members of Kido-ites, Ino-ites, and even independent factions to sway their votes in support of a preferred candidate. Behind the appearance of oppositional politics, their casted votes are expected to play a significant part in throwing the split Diet under control of the candidate that has won their support in this politely hostile parliamentary feud. Well, the deputies choose Kaya. Well, his position is firm. Nuclear engine coming soon. Maintenance company coming soon. So that's good. What about Manila? The Warsaw Uprising. Well, the general government in Poland has always been quiet. This has seemingly been a little more than a thin veneer, desperately kept on by the Germans in the face of growing unrest. This has become evident when, not even weeks after the beginning of the German Civil War, the Polish Home Army, or the AK, has begun a general uprising that has easily toppled the weak general government and its leader, Hans Frank. It's actually Hans Frank. With a free Poland on the very border of the Reich, the future seems unclear for how. God damn it. No, god damn it! For how well the rest of the German sphere will weather the storm. Still, Poland is completely surrounded by the Reich on all borders beside the southern front, where it has some scant access to its rapidly collapsing neighbor in Hungary. One can only guess at the reborn state's future. The Nazi Empire continues to crumble. So wait, they reached out? No, they didn't. I mean, there's still the general government, but... we'll see. So, death of Prime Minister Janda. In unexpected news, the government of Indonesia has announced today the death of the current Prime Minister Juanda Kartawijaya. Having died suddenly from a heart attack after an ill-fated fall, the whole left in the Party Nasional Indonesia has rekindled squabbles as different groups fight for their preferred candidate. Already, representatives of Japan have expressed their deep condolences for the departed Prime Minister, which Indonesia's government has recently received curtly. Meanwhile, the US and Germany have stayed silent, as expected for such a local matter. Regardless, the government is expected to have its hands busy for the foreseeable future, as questions of the military centralization and development expect an answer from the likely battle over a new prime minister. One man's tragedy is another man's opportunity. So let's look at the whispers of the Kingmaker. In what is regarded to be the final wager in deciding the next prime minister by vote in the Diet, the word of Kido Koichi carries the ability to validate the run of a candidate to be legitimate successor to the premiership, representing his position as Lord Keeper as well as carrying the blessing of the House of Peers. An endorsement from Kido can certainly shift the tides in either campaign for the nomination of prime minister. The House of Peers have come to consensus with Kido, emphasizing that they recommend the nomination of Takagi. The nobility hold a high opinion of the admiral. They recognize his naval background as well as his respect for the processes of government, seeing him as a candidate of relevant and righteous change. However, Kido's personal opinion differs. He believes that Kaya is best for the candidacy, as he is influential and powerful, but most of all he is most susceptible to coercion and manipulation from the upper echelons of the Japanese political machine. Both candidates count their favors and eagerly await the statement from Kido, with staff constantly checking their telephones and keeping up to date with the news coverage of the affair. The moment Kido does announce his endorsement, however, the final stretch of the race to the Diet will become ever more intense and pressured. Well, it's gonna be Kaya. From tenuous untenable and devastating clarity. Haruka, I have attached some readings that I would have been afraid to even take out of the office the month before. Now that a half-dozen firms are under investigation, I think it doesn't matter anymore. My boss, Hirome, he's a strong man, good to his children and his wife, was found with a glass of industrial bleach in his hand yesterday. The simple truth is this: Yasuda, my work, everything has been found out. I hoped the nausea of working in a rotten bank would keep to the workplace, but now it is out. You should know too. Our funneling money to the army and navy so they could play games of billions of yen. Our payments from Minnesota to keep us quiet while they rolled in the mud and the ugly shadow of the Kokusei over everything. Everyone knows now, and the bonds which they keep stood afloat have burned to ashes. I want to tell you, my son, this. I have always loved him. I always will. And I am so sorry I can barely breathe as I write this letter. I hope he will think of me as a man who has done his duty to his family, not as the rotten shadow I truly was. Perhaps he will grow up better. And Haruka, I want you to know, I think I am in love with you. You have never heard it, have you? Not from my own lips, but when I see you rushing about the kitchen or teaching Hiro, I am convinced that I could walk from one end of the empire to the other, and I would still be drawn back to you. I love you, Haruka, and what I do next, I do to keep you safe. I hope you will remarry, for no man could be fortunate enough to find a wife like you on his own. My secretary will deliver this message, and enclosed is 500,000 yen for my funeral costs. I apologize for the rope burns on my neck. My eternal love, Kenji Suzumura. Prime Minister Abdul Ghani leads the charge. Following recent contention with his domestic reforms, Sukarno has announced the appointment of Ruslan Abdul Ghani to the post of Prime Minister. So that is in Indonesia, right? Sukarno. Nope. Okay, this a leader though. We don't know if that's a prime minister or not. A close friend to the president and a staunch supporter of his centralization programs, Prime Minister Abdul Ghani seeks to accelerate the nationalization of foreign businesses and centering all administrative powers to Jakarta, stating the importance of hastening the recovery of Indonesia's wealth from the greedy towns of the Zaibatsu and Tokyo's puppeteers. You guys don't have any national focus. How are you doing on the economy? Not great. So, yeah. Given their popularly known friendship, many view this as further proof of Sukarno's desire to reconstruct the nation system to focus all power into his own grip at the notable expense of his own people. Democracy withers, but there was no applause. The victorious bureaucrat. Okay. The speaker looked up from his podium with raised eyebrows and a sweaty despair, wandering his eyes over to Kaya Okinori before announcing his triumph. Upon hearing the utterance of his name, the technocrats of the Diet leapt out of their seats and roared in victory, bringing a celebratory pandemonium to the chamber. The reformists, shamed by their defeat, scoffed and turned their noses up at Kaya's faction, but nothing could dampen the cheers of the technocrats' victory over them. Kaya snickered of his men before suddenly turning his attention to the speaker's podium, where he pulled out a prepared speech from underneath his suit and began to address the Diet. Mere moments into his speech, Kaya pledged to bring great change to the empire, much to the pleasure of those who had supported him before this moment. Their faces lit up in awe, and their mouths watered at the sound of his pledges of industrialization, centralization, and other popular technocrat talking points that had won him the nomination to the position of Prime Minister. As Kaya spoke, his eyes swept the chamber, gathering the expressions of those who had come to support and oppose him. He did not feel threatened by the opposition's precedents, he had just defeated them. Instead, the all came from those who favored should back his platform before they backed his vow for premiership itself. So Kaya Okinori becomes leader of the despotism party, Aichi Kichi retires, and we get a committed bureaucrat, so extra construction speed and daily political power gain. Kaya elected as Prime Minister of Japan. And we have no ministers. Okay. So that's gonna have to change. I guess we might have a vote on that. That would be cool. Following a drawn-out power struggle after the resignation of Ino Hiroya, Kaya Okinore has been appointed as the new Prime Minister of Japan. The leader of the Yokosankai's clique of technocrats, their ambitions are massive. The renovation of the state apparatus towards a corporatist model tinged with nationalist rhetoric, the extended use of the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy to secure Japanese interests, and a huge drive towards state-driven industrial expansion, modeled after the Kwantun's army model in Manchukuo. And while Kaya is popular, many are wary of the bureaucrats' ambitions, more specifically the ambitions of those who back him. Of particular note, Kishi Nobusuke has congratulated the appointment of Kaya as Prime Minister, noting that Kaya truly represents the interest of the Japanese state. Well, we'll see about that. Oh hey, we got new focus tree! Yes! Finally! Okay, our political power or daily gain has gone down a little bit, but oh yes! Prime Minister Kaya, political power plus 75, and the new cabinet, extra 25% political power. Appeal to the hardliners or on our own. Okay, so we'll have to choose our realpolitik. Okay, so we actually have a big choice here right in the beginning. Begin the reforms. Integrate the military, political cleansing. Untangle the economy. Cleanse the corruption. Prepare our tools. Preserve the kotukai. Make lists. Crush the centers. The premiership secured. Okay, now we're gonna start immediately with the Prime Minister Kaya, because we need that political power as soon as we can. In the chaos of the collapse of the Ino's government following the Yasuda crisis, Kaya Okinore of the technocrats have emerged to secure his position as Prime Minister of Japan, and has taken charge of a government in crisis that is unpopular with the public, faces a deeply divided military, and must contend with the aftershocks of the Yasuda crisis. Each of these challenges and problems must be solved if he is to stabilize Japan. Even within the technocrats, two factions have emerged to compete for influence and vie for his support, each with their own vision for Japan. The new bureaucrats, headed by Fukuda Takeo, and the reform bureaucrats, led by Shina Etsusaburo and Kishi Nobusuke. It will be up to Kaya to decide whose vision to enact, and in so doing determine the future of Japan. So political power plus 75, and the support in the House of Peers increases by 5%. So in 42 days we're gonna get that one. So what does the House of Cards look like now? Not great. Because the technocrats are in power, we face the additional challenge of a sizable contingent of hardliners within our own faction who will modify the support we receive from our faction relative to their influence and our relation. Should we want to keep the technocrats powerful, we will need to ensure that the hardliners' influence remains low or our relations with them are high. Okay. Upward hardliners to the minister position. Sideline the hardliners MPs. Offer concessions. Guess it's probably best if we try to sideline them, but offer them some concessions as well. Anyway, I think that's all for this episode. I'm actually very interested in what's gonna happen next, so I'm gonna do one more and we'll see about that. I think that we still have an AntiRebel campaign going for further days, so we'll see. So, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.